Over the course of many years, this trailer stood completely abandoned on the outskirts of town. Nobody knew much about it except the fact that it belonged to a man who had disappeared more than 10 years before. It wasn't clear what happened to him, but there were certainly plenty of rumors. One of these claimed that he ran away with a huge amount of money. What was the truth? It remained elusive until his son inherited the trailer, and things began to become clearer. This is what he discovered. Adam stared at the old and disheveled trailer in front of him. He couldn't believe that he had inherited this piece of junk from his father, Jack, who had kept a secret from him for many years. What was going on? He gingerly stepped into the old vehicle and immediately smelled a strong scent of must and dust. He looked through all the debris and clutter, and he came upon something that seemed out of place. He had no idea just how much he would find hidden in this old trailer, and what would reveal about his father. One day, Adam received a letter that informed him of his inheritance. He was taken aback, since he had not thought about his father in years, ever since he had disappeared when Adam was a young boy. How come he all of a sudden inherited something from him? It seemed as though his mother had declared his father to be deceased in the hopes of receiving some compensation. After all, he had been missing for 15 years. However, in the end it was Adam who received the trailer, old and beat up and left abandoned in a forest. Adam wasn't sure how to feel, but he was surprised his father left him anything at all. He barely remembered his father, and he definitely didn't remember this trailer. When his mother found out about it, she was just as surprised. Adam decided that he had to check out immediately to try to better understand the situation. It was a 3-hour drive away, which was even more curious. Who was his father, and what had he been hiding? He arrived at the given coordinates that led him to a forest, with the closest town being about an hour away. The trailer was located far into the forest, making it seem like its owner didn't want to be found. Suddenly, Adam noticed something. At first, he couldn't tell what it was, as it blended into the forest, but as he got closer, he saw that it was indeed the trailer. He stood there, taking it all in. The peeling paint, the dust-coated windows, the layers of filth accumulated over years. The back of the trailer looked like it had collapsed, and the door was hanging off of the hinges. It had clearly been there untouched for a long time. Adam wondered what on earth his father had been doing with this thing. He looked all around the trailer before taking a deep breath and stepping inside. As he pushed aside the creaking door, Adam immediately took in the rank smell of an abandoned place. Every surface was coated in dust and cobwebs. He began to sift through all of the junk, removing it from inside of the trailer. He didn't know what exactly he was searching for, but he hoped that it would answer at least some of his questions and know what the connection his father had to this place. Adam began sifting through everything and sorting items into different piles. He made sure to use protective gloves as he placed wood in one pile, metal into another, furniture in a third, and other random objects into a fourth separate pile. It was clear that everything was in such terrible condition, including the trailer itself, that it couldn't be salvaged. At this point, he only continued so he could understand the mystery of his father better. Time dragged on, and just as the sun began to set, Adam made a discovery. He found a small, rusty key lying under a pile of trash on the ground. It didn't seem like anything inside of the trailer was locked, and this filled his mind with even more questions. What could this key open? Was there something valuable hidden somewhere? Adam was originally looking for photos or notebooks, but that old rumor he always heard about his father leaving with a huge sum of money crept up in the back of his mind. Adam searched the trailer from top to bottom for any connection to mysterious key, scouring every inch until he came across a loose floorboard. Beneath it, he found an old leather-bound book, his father's journal. As he flipped through its pages, he was astonished to find the final entries were addressed to him personally, as though his father had been anticipating this day. The last message gave him the chills. "My son, if you're reading this, I'm dead. Not by my own accord, but I had no choice. Track these coordinates, and you shall find what's yours and yours alone." Dizzy in his head, Adam entered the coordinates into his phone and discovered they indicated a nearby storage facility, one he had passed by 100 times without a second thought. Wasting no time, he locked up the trailer and went there straight away, eager for the answers he had been trying to find to finally be available. But when he asked for a unit in his father's name, the manager had nothing. Adam fumed with frustration, but would not be swayed. He recalled his father's words, "What belongs to you and you only?" On a whim, he asked the manager to check under his own name. To his surprise, unit number 33 was listed under Adam's complete name. The padlock was caked with decades of grime, and though the rusty key resisted at first, with the help of the manager, Adam was finally able to get the door open. Inside, the dimly lit unit was stacked with unmarked, dusty boxes. Doubt crept in. What if these boxes would yield nothing but disappointment? Bracing himself, Adam opened them to discover childhood toys, photo albums, and mementos his father had carefully preserved. A surge of nostalgia and sorrow struck him, but something inside told him this was still not the secret. That's when he saw it. A door at the back of the unit. An odd feature that took even the manager by surprise. The door, made of flimsy material instead of reinforced concrete, was locked. Without hesitation, Adam kicked it down, and dust burst into the air. When it settled, a hidden room was revealed, a study with books, papers, and maps. A corkboard covered in pinned photos, and notes pointed to an even larger mystery. What had his father been involved in? As Adam sorted through things, his foot knocked against something, a locked chest. His heart pounding. He broke it open. There he discovered yellow documents detailing corruption and embezzlement by powerful people in town. One photograph stood out. His father in a crowd of people holding a banner that read, "Justice for Fall." His father was battling this corruption when he vanished. Had his disappearance been orchestrated? Was he alive? Determined to learn the truth, Adam placed the evidence in his vehicle and drove to his mother's house. Jessica's expression altered when she saw the box he had in his hands. He questioned her about what was wrong, and she first stuttered, avoiding eye contact with him. But she later invited him to sit as she went to fetch something from her upstairs room. She returned with a shoebox. "Your father did not just lie to you, Adam. He lied to me, too." She told him that Jack had always been secretive, drifting from job to job. And when she asked him, he admitted he was dealing with dangerous people. He had tried to keep them safe from harm, but before she could learn more, he disappeared, leaving behind only a letter instructing her to forget him. Jessica's eyes filled with tears as she handed Adam that letter. But what shocked him was what she said to him next. Just a week ago, she had gotten another letter, again from his father. She had intended to keep it hidden, but now, after everything, she knew that it was time for Adam to read it. Adam's world collapsed around him. His father had lied. His mother had kept the truth from him all these years. And now, with this new letter in his hands, he was going to discover the real tale of what had happened to his father. Adam's mother gave him the letter with a small, reassuring smile. Never a word to reassure him that everything would be okay. His hands trembled as he took the envelope, opening the letter slowly unfolding it. He experienced an anxiety rush about what he was going to read. Jack, his dad, had written a letter to his mother requesting that she drop the efforts to locate him and to sign him up as deceased. He explained to Adam how much he adored him, explaining that it was his only choice. If he had stayed, he would have long since died. Discovering that his father survived all these years caused a tidal wave of feelings inside Adam. His mother placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her face etched with sadness, tears running down his face. Adam managed to force a weak smile. Though the information arrived with mixed relief, he realized he might never get to see his father again. At least now he had the truth. He hugged his mother tightly, both of them embracing, recalling old times and laughter, mending in their own way. By the time he left her house later that day, he felt at peace that he had never known before, but he still had something to do before he could truly leave the past behind. Inspired by his father's courage, Adam decided to take action. He would not allow the government officials who had driven his father into exile to carry on their crimes undisturbed. Unfazed, he joined forces with law enforcement, prosecutors, and investigative journalists to expose them. It was a lengthy and difficult struggle, but he would not let up. Ultimately, justice was accomplished. The corrupt officials were convicted and sentenced for their crime. The town rejoiced, and Adam experienced a deep sense of vindication. As much as he hoped that his victory would restore his father, Adam knew he could not linger on that uncertainty. What mattered was that he had made a difference. His father had fought for justice in the shadows, and now Adam had fought the same way, making it safer and more honest for all. Even though his father was unknown, Adam comforted himself with the thought that wherever he might be, he would be proud. Elsewhere, a different family was facing a very different revelation. When Emily's father passed away, she was devastated. But her grief soon turned to shock when she learned that a woman she had never met had been left the sole inheritor of his fortune. Emily had always assumed that she and her children would inherit his estate, but the unexpected arrival of a mysterious stranger derailed everything. The deeper she dug, the more disturbing facts she uncovered. Her father had modified his will while in the hospital to include the mysterious woman as the trustee to his bank account. To rub salt in the wound, another unknown individual had been granted access under the guise of being a daughter. The betrayal was profound, and the entire family was left questioning the truth behind her father's final decisions. After discovering all of this, all Emily and her family wanted was to right what they felt was wrong and to restore her children's inheritance, as they felt that they are the rightful heirs, seeing as they are the only biological grandchildren of Emily's late father. Emily decided to consult with a lawyer, and she wrote to one asking for advice. The lawyer in question, Gary Rycroft, heard her out and posted his reply to Emily's issue on explaining what happens next. Rycroft explained that just as Emily had already done, the first thing to do is to lodge a caveat, which is a legal procedure that allows for blocking the administration of a deceased person's estate, since there is a possible dispute over it. A caveat will last for 6 months, and then needs to be renewed. The person who received the caveat, like the woman trying to benefit from Emily's father's will, can counter with asking that the person serving the caveat prove that there's enough evidence against them. Rycroft then explained that although it is very understandable that Emily is upset by the changes made to the will, she will need to produce enough evidence and legal reasons why the will has to be challenged. Since this case is taking place in England, Rycroft also pointed out that there is a general principle of law of testamentary freedom that allows people are allowed to leave their estates to whoever they want to. Despite this, Rycroft said that in this particular case, there were some options due to what Emily shared. Since the changes were made while her father was sick and in the hospital, her father's mental capacity at the time of the new will should be investigated. This is to ensure that he was actually able to know and understand that these changes were taking place. Since Emily said that he promised his inheritance to her, she should bring up any drastic measures she took in her life following this promise. That could include giving up her job to take care of him, moving in with him, or renting a property because she believed she would inherit his home. Another thing worth considering is how exactly Emily's father came to believe that the random woman was his daughter, enough to name her as such in the new will. If Emily could prove that her father was misled about his relationship to her, then she could challenge the new will. Rycroft also mentions that another possible approach is to remove the caveat and allow the will to go through as is, then put in a request for reasonable financial provision and capacity as a child of the deceased. Of course, he points out that this is no guarantee for success and sufficient evidence is necessary. Ultimately, the best course of action for Emily would be to consult with and eventually hire a legal expert to help her navigate this tricky situation. Hopefully, she will be able to resolve the situation.